Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we are currently in position-ish for an encounter with, what is this place even called? Atraitus. Okay, so we're going to warp up over this direction. This is going to be very, very close to our encounter. And now we're going to need to bring ourselves in. Ooh, that's fast. But this is now 21.1 minutes away from the periapsis. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ourselves, hopefully... Okay, let's turn up the sensitivity a wee bit. Hopefully into orbit here. How much DV is this going to be? That's... Okay, yep, this looks good. So we're at 60 kilometers right now. This is not too bad. 172 meters per second. So how much do we have at this point remaining? So let's just put ourselves into a circularized orbit like this, and we can go ahead and execute that. We've got 65% remaining. Okay, so in terms of raw DV, that's about 2 kilometers per second. The question is this enough to land, take off again, re-achieve orbit, and then aero brake here? We'll find out. So as we can see here, we're kind of right in plane with the rings, and that makes sense why Atraitus would be in plane with the rings here. Interesting that we can't actually see the rings in the map mode. Huh. That's definitely interesting. So Delta V, once we get in orbit here, is going to be very, very low. We definitely know that for an absolute fact. That is 100% a thing that is going to be true. We can see at this point, we are traveling at 8 meters per second. So if we want to bring this down, I want to come up to the periapsis, and I want to descend down to somewhere like, I don't know, maybe like 10 kilometers. Yeah, something like around 10 kilometers. This should be reasonably good here. So let's go ahead and do that. That's 4 meters per second. 4.192 to be precise. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. And we're just going to bring this right on down. And then we're going to circularize at about 10 kilometers. We'll see if that's looking safe. It's looking pretty safe. Okay. So right at about 10 kilometers, we could even just go in for the landing here, to be honest. It's 6 meters per second. Yeah, I think we should. So that would mean bringing this up to somewhere around, well, we want to be in 11 meters per second. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's just use this as timing. Let's warp to about here. I want to put us in velocity retrograde, and we're going to need to warp a little bit because we have our gyros off. But there we go. That'll be fine. We'll put ourselves into velocity retrograde, and then I want to make sure that we have this at a pitch of 0. Okay, so something along the lines of that. Now, where are we? Ah, here we are. Okay, we're about 6 kilometers up right now, above ground level. So that seems absolutely fine. Let's go ahead and get rid of our lateral velocity at this point. That's 23 meters per second, so that's really not all that bad. Lateral velocity going away. We're at 10 meters per second. 5. Okay, so as we can see, we're going to need to change our heading out over like this direction, and we're going to need to warp a little bit. Okay, something along the lines of this. Now let's continue to drop this down. 2 meters per second laterally. 1 meter per second laterally. And that's as good as we're going to get. So that seems fine for now. Let's lock our velocity to retrograde, and let's warp on over to that. And we're just going to slowly descend. Now, we should probably extend our landing legs. You'll note that I don't have our lights on. There's a battery-related reason for that, but let's extend our landing legs here. We're not actually going to use these parachutes, but that is absolutely fine. So we're just going to slowly drop on down here. This is going to take a little while. So let's go ahead and warp this a little bit. We're on 10x right now, but we can bring this up to 25x. 5 kilometers up. 4 kilometers. 3 kilometers up. 2? Okay, we're at about 15 meters per second, which is on pace. We're about where we want to be, actually. So we're 1.5 kilometers up. Let's take this up to 10x. We're now 1 kilometer up. This is going to require very, very little delta V to get us actually landed and taken back off here. But as you can see, we're down to 1.84 kilometers per second remaining. So let's just bring this on down. I'm going to... This right here is 7 thrust to weight at 6% thrust. Okay. We're not slowing down all that much, though, so that's noted. This seems reasonably fine. We're about 500 meters up right now, and we're just slowly decelerating. This is actually a really nice view here. I like this. Okay, so we're at 10 meters per second, continuing to descend here. Our thrust to weight is going down, which is interesting. But I guess this is because we're burning so little fuel right now. That's fine. We're at about 250 meters of altitude right now, traveling at 7 meters per second. I'm going to cut our throttle a little bit here. We're now at 6 meters per second. And there's our shadow there. Nice. So this thing is so small that it's kind of hard to tell what up means here. I'm going to cut our thrust. We're going to drift down at about 4 meters per second here. We'll accelerate a little bit, but it's very low acceleration. So that looks fine for now. We're about 80 meters up. I want to slow us down a little bit more. Okay, we're at 3 meters per second. 2 meters per second. 1 meter per second. And touchdown. Okay, so we're kind of tipping a bit here. Let's just make our way right on up. There we go. This isn't exactly the direction I want to go. I want to go easterly on a 90-degree heading, and I want to put our pitch out over here. It's going to take us a little bit to turn there. That's okay. What's our current apoapsis? Plenty high. So let's put ourselves at a pitch of 0, and let's put our apoapsis, I don't know, maybe around 50 kilometers. It's not going to take us very much to get there. There we go. That'll do. So we are off. Now, what was the achievement rate on that? 0.5% of players have landed on Jastris. Okay, cool. So now what we need to do is we need to circularize here at the apoapsis. And I mean, we're at a bit of an inclination, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to circularize this right on up. That will take very little delta V. As we can see here, that is currently taking like 6 delta V to get that circularized. Sure, go for it. So that looks fine, and we'll get that executed. 2, 1, mark. Sure, our inclination is a little different than what I was expecting it to be, but that seems fine. So at this point, our target is going to end up being Atraitus. But the question is, if we select the planet visitor, how far can we get? So I want to check here what the Atraitus atmospheric height is. Apparently I closed the Juno wiki. Fantastic. Let me check here real fast. So we've got an atmospheric height of 348.8 kilometers above crushing altitude. So it has a crush altitude of 50 kilometers. So does that mean that the atmosphere starts at 398.8? That's how I would interpret that, but you could make the argument that it just starts at 348.8. I'm going to assume it's 398.8. So if we were to burn prograde here, and let's crank up that sensitivity. If we were to burn prograde here, I want this to be positioned in such a way... Okay, this is a terrible place to burn prograde. I want to burn prograde like here. Okay, so we're going to drop this... No, I want it the other way. Okay, so let's put it like out over this way. Yeah, that's roughly what I want here. Okay, So this is technically an impact trajectory at 1.27 kilometers per second. We're going to want to bring that up a little bit. What is this currently at? 569 kilometers. Okay, so we can definitely dial that in a little bit. I wish we could show this at all times, but let's bring that down. That's 364. I'm going to assume that we should be at about 400 for right now. So that's 435, that's 422, that's 398. Okay, so this might be within the atmosphere. I'm going to just do that. This should be within the atmosphere, in theory, anyway. Now, we'd be coming down on the dark side, and I'm not convinced that I actually want to do that. I'd rather come down on the light side. So I think we should probably do this a little bit differently. Specifically, we should just back off on this and put this, I don't know, somewhere around, like, would we have enough DV to do that, though? I feel like we need to be cautious on our DV. So we just achieve escape velocity here. And it would be something like this. So just barely escape velocity. Let's go ahead and run that. Like so. Okay, so how much DV do we have at this moment? 1.76. Okay, so the reason why I decided to do it this way is because A, I want to come down on the other side, and we could have just changed when we did that timing, but B, I was concerned about delta V. So that would have been the better way to do it, is just change when we did the burn, but it's fine. For now, what I want to do is I want to come over to about here. We'd plan a burn about there, and then we'd look to drop this down. So that's 757 meters per second there. Okay, we've got plenty of delta V for this. So I want to target this as being at at 395 is probably fine. I want to see if this is within the atmosphere. We'll have some delta V left over after we do this. This may or may not be within the atmosphere, but it would just barely be dipping into the atmosphere, and we can use that to determine how we want to use the remainder of our fuel. So let's go ahead and execute that burn. We've got the fuel to do our quote-unquote landing on Urados. So that will be absolutely wonderful. So this is going to be like a 3-minute burn. Let's warp through that. Okay, so we're lowering our orbital velocity. This is much, much lower orbital velocities than over Atraitus. So that should mean fewer aerobrake runs. Okay, 395, that looks ideal. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to hop down to about here. And we're going to see how much our orbital speed builds up. I also want to lock our velocity to prograde. And we do have some fuel left. I'm going to... Actually, I believe we do want to keep those active. Oh, okay. This is within the atmosphere. That is surprising to me. This is way higher than I expected it to be. Huh. So this is 635 kilometers here. Atmospheric height is supposed to be 398.8 according to the wiki, but that is apparently incorrect. So good to know. Unfortunately for us, bye-bye solar panels, but let's go ahead and see if we can whip ourselves around here and make our way over to retrograde, like so, and just burn off the remainder of this a little bit. Actually, let's just hold here on retrograde. We're going to have some power issues. So I want to... Yeah, this flips us back around. Time to periapsis is increasing. So we need to try to flip this and burn off as much speed as we can here. We're going in too deep here. Way too deep. And this is because I was really not expecting this atmospheric height. But we're going to burn off what we can. We might have to send another flight to actually do the crushing here, because this was way higher atmospheric height than I thought it was going to be. Definitely good to know. Apparently the wiki is incorrect on that. That's fine, as long as we're able to slow down enough. So we're able to burn off another 620 meters per second, plus we're getting, our lights are definitely exploding. That's fully expected. We're probably going to end up burning up here. Yeah, we just burn up. So that is absolutely not shocking. Not shocking at all, given the atmospheric height discrepancy. I was expecting this to be a much, much lower atmospheric height than it was. So I just want to pull this open here. Let me get this over and let me just show you what the Juno New Origins wiki has to say about this. So this is Atraitus right here. And it has a crush altitude of 50 kilometers. And then the atmospheric height is 348.8 kilometers above crushing altitude. So let me just zoom in on that a little bit. 348.8 kilometers above crushing altitude. So I would expect 398.8 kilometers. Apparently, it's much higher than that. It is at least like 550 kilometers, based on the experimentation that we just did. So that's definitely very interesting. No doubt about that. That's fine. We can send another flight here. It's not the end of the world. I do want to get that crush altitude. So we can definitely do that, but we're going to have to dive a lot less deep than this. So, lesson learned. So at this point, we're going to end this flight, and there's not really anything to be done. We're just going to save the flight. It was going to be destroyed anyway, but we're definitely interested in some further destruction there. So at this point, we can grab some of this stuff out here. Now, we can actually grab a lot of this. So let's work towards getting all of these done. Side detacher size going up would be interesting for sure. And then living above the clouds, we'll grab that. And wing. And the eternal wheel. Okay, so that gives us a lot more propeller. Then we can grab almost like owls, getting us some night vision. Ah, cameras. Okay, yep. And then this is absolutely fine. Transformers and ready for touchdown. So that gets us this entire tier. Do we have enough to get all these? Well, no, but we're actually pretty close. So let's grab single stage to orbit to give us arrow spikes. I imagine these are going to be really expensive. But we can take that. And then we can get like max active crafts. Not like we're going to use this. And then we can still get planet colonizer. So let's take that. Then all we need is these three. Not bad. We are really, really close to maxing out the tech tree. I like it. So at this point, we need to send another craft out to Atraitus. And the question is, do we want to send one to land on the atmospheric moon, like the Titan analog? Or do we want to send this to land in Atraitus? Land. I use the word land very loosely here. Well, it doesn't really matter. We can just do it in either order. They're going to be the same craft either way, although technically I suppose we wouldn't include the parachutes on the one that's going to land on Atraitus. That would be the only difference. Maybe not even the landing legs. They do provide drag though, but most of the drag is from the solar panels, so yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and launch this thing, and it's going to take itself off as usual. Our flight program will work absolutely fine. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to check if there was a way to exit the flight program so that it wouldn't continue draining power. Let's see here. There's a break here that breaks out of a while or repeat loop. What I want to know is there a way to have it just end the program and no longer continue program? I don't think so. I don't see a way to do that. The other thing that we could do, of course, is we could go in here and increase the size of these solar panels. So we would increase the number of rows, for example, like this to like 7. And we could also increase the row size like this. And then they're exactly the same in terms of their size here. It's probably going to weigh a little bit more, but that's definitely going to produce us more power. So that should be a good thing. Let's go ahead and launch this, and let's see how that goes. Okay, craft launched is going to be very jiggly. It's not ideal, but here we are. And let's just cruise our way through these lower atmosphere turbulences. There we go. Now it's all under control. So that is good. We're going to make ourselves right at home up here in the upper atmosphere. There goes the outer shell. Perfect. And our inner shell. Excellent. And we're just going to continue to boost this apoapsis right on up. There we go. And we're now in our Methalox engines with our fancy, larger solar panels. I don't know why we had a bit of roll there, but whatever. Does not matter. We'll just accelerate on forward, and as we can see, we are definitely working our way through this battery. We're at 91% battery at this time, but it should be fine. So our apoapsis is at 501. There we go. We have a little bit of rotation here. I think what we've got going on is this clippage here. I'm like 95% certain that that's what's causing us issues there. Okay, well, let's go ahead and warp forward a little faster here. Cool. So we're down to about 2 minutes now. We're on 25x, and let's take this down to 10x. There we go. This will, of course, insert us into orbit. So that looks great. So we don't need to decide which direction we want to go here, but orbital insertion is now complete, and we can, at this point, head right on out. So we need to head back to Atraitus, which is this one here. We'll select Atraitus, and we'll target that. There we go. And now we need to head back in here, and the question is, are we in a decent transfer window? We may or may not be. Let's see what it feels like if we go from here. So that's, of course, our escape velocity. That is way, way too much. Let's pull that back. This is actually kind of close. We could maybe just change that timing a little bit. So let's get zoomed in here. So I see like 3,000 megometers. We could dial that in a little bit on the radial, but we really don't need all that much there. Let's turn this sensitivity way, 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 way down. Okay. So we're going to dial this back a little bit. This is about 3 was the best we had there. Okay. So it's going to have to be a little bit radial. No doubt about that. This is about the best we got there. So a little bit radial here. This is close enough, to be honest with you. So we can just go ahead and execute this. And auto-execute that burn. Medium accuracy on that, but we can always dial this in a little bit more later on. So that seems fine. Let's execute this burn. So at this point, our solar panels are reasonably fine. But clipping into here is clearly causing us some issues with our solar panels, so that... But for the moment, I'm relatively content with this. So we're going to burn out a good amount of this fuel, and we're going to burn more of it with our braking burn. We're going to just have to decide which we want to go for. I think we can only go for 1 per launch. Well, we can definitely only go for 1 if we go for Atraitus. I'm like 99% certain that we're not going to lift off of the Titan analog either. So let's see how this goes. We overshot a little bit, it felt like there. Oh yeah, we definitely did. So we're going to want to exit the sphere of influence and then give ourselves a little bit of a corrective burn. So somewhere around here or so, we can do a small correction to bring this guy right on in. 5 gigameters. I saw 3 there. And that looks like that's an inclination change. Oh yeah. Okay, about there or so. Let's turn that sensitivity a little down. Okay, this is not very effective. Cool. And we can just bring that down to like a gigameter, somewhere around there. I'm not sure what the moon orbit is. We can double check that. This is probably good enough, though. But let's hop in here and see. So this is going to be a pretty major inclination issue, I think. But what's the altitude of Boreas? That is 115 megometers, so this should be reasonably fine. We're going to need a big inclination change, but I'm not that concerned about it. We'll have lots of delta V since we're not trying to do any extension mission. Looks good. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're just going to pick one. It doesn't really matter which one we pick. We're just going to do one of them. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible. I haven't switched over. There we go. All of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.